We are now in Section 2, Part 2. Section 2 relates to PRINCE2 Agile principles, practices, and artifacts and their role in an Agile context. In Part 1 of Section 2, we already covered the PRINCE2 Agile principles. There are 7 principles in PRINCE2 Project Management, and if we have noted how they work under PRINCE2 Agile, meaning in an Agile application or in an Agile environment. We have also covered the business case practice. We will move on to other practices, and in this one, in part 2, specifically the organization practice. And also in every practice, we are covering relevant artifacts and how they work in their practice. Section 2 overall will have 16 questions in the exam, which includes not only part 1, part 2, but also the remaining parts. So let's take a look at what is there under the organization practice. Every practice has its purpose. For the foundation exam, it is essential or important for you to know the text or the theory because the foundation exam is completely understanding and memory recall based. The purpose of this practice is to define and establish the project's structure of accountability and responsibilities. In other words, the who. So therefore, it means it's about what are the various roles in PRINCE2 Agile and what are the responsibilities under each role. Now, it's possible that a specific individual may perform one or more roles. There are also rules regarding that, and we will take a look at them afterwards. Another key thing here is the relationships as well. So, because one of the PRINCE2 Agile principles is about defining roles, responsibilities, and relationships, which means that the reporting or the connections between the various roles should also be indicated. Now, it's possible that some of the roles may not be mapped as they are in a real project, but all the responsibilities of all the roles need to be assigned in a PRINCE2 Agile project. What that also means is that one individual may take on multiple roles while they may have a specific designation in their own working environment. Role, it's a minor thing for the exam, but it's good to know that definition of a role. It is a function or a set of tasks assigned to a group or individual in a particular project. It is not the same as position or job of a person outside the project. What that means is an individual may wear multiple hats or multiple roles in a single job description or a job title or designation. Now, we have here the various key stakeholders of a PRINCE2 Agile project: the business, the user, the supplier, and the customer. Business is the organization that provides the project mandate and the structure within which the project is governed, which means that they are the one who create the idea based on an opportunity or a challenge. And they will urge the others to think about it and propose a solution along with a justification for it, meaning check out the investment, the benefits, and the risks. The user is the organization, a person or persons or a group of people that will use the project products to enable it to gain the expected benefits. So users will use the product during its operations, which means they also provide their specifications or expectations about the quality of the product, the overall product they want. Users generally do not specify everything about the product, but they set their expectations as to what they are seeking. For example, an outcome or a specific solution they are seeking. But the solution details will have to be figured out by the project performer. Supplier. These are, or this is the organization that provides the expertise, people, and resources required to deliver the project products. Again, like the user, the supplier may be internal or external. There may be multiple user groups using the product in different environments. There may be multiple suppliers as well, creating different products or sub-products of the project. Customer. This generally happens in commercial engagements. So whenever there's a commercial relationship between the business and the supplier, then business becomes the customer. And usually the customer will have their own user groups or user community from their own side who will pay for the project or for the products at least. These are the 4 layers within PRINCE2 Agile. First of all, the business layer. As we were just discussing, we have the Very similar to that here, but we have different layers. Previously, we were looking at the various core stakeholders or stakeholder interests, but now we have the business layers. So that is also known as the commissioning layer. They provide the project mandate as outlined earlier also on the previous slide. They also identify the executive for the project. It's one person only. They also define the tolerances for the project. For example, the project duration, cost, and other things, the other targets within which the project board will work, which means the business layer or the commissioning layer is indicating the project level tolerances to the project board. So the project board is one level below the commissioning or business layer. And whenever the project board indicates that a project level tolerance is likely to be breached or has been breached, they will need to escalate or raise an exception to the business layer, and the business layer will respond as to what is to be done. Maybe they need a revised project plan, which is known as an exception plan, or maybe they give other advice to the project board. The directing layer, sitting one layer under the business layer or one level below that, is the project board, which consists of many representatives. It should mainly have a business representative. This role is termed as project executive. It will also have the user representative, and the main the role here is the chief product owner. And it also has supplier representatives, and these are known as one or more senior suppliers. So if there are three suppliers, two internal, one external, there could be possibly three senior suppliers in the project board. I'm saying possibly because it's not necessary that there is a supplier representative from every supplier organization. It depends on the composition of the board that is being created. Imagine for a moment if there are 15 suppliers and there are 15 senior suppliers in the project board. They will take a lot of time to make decisions. So the project executive has a say in who will be in the project board. So these representatives from the three areas are accountable for the success of the project. This is something you need to know for the exam as to which layer is accountable for project success. It is the directing layer made up of the project board members. They also provide overall direction and management of the project within the constraints established by the layer above them or the level above them, which was the business layer. Who sets the project tolerances? So project cost, time, and other tolerances, risk tolerances, sustainability tolerances, benefit tolerances, quality and scope tolerances, whichever are most relevant for the business layer to monitor. The project board authorizes the start and completion of each stage. Most of the planning work is done by or all of it is done by the project manager. And therefore, the project board authorizes the project manager to begin the stage or indicate that the stage has been completed properly. And then they would expect information for the next stage from the project manager and approve that and continue to do so throughout the project. And however, in terms of setting tolerances, the project board defines stage tolerances and allocates them to the project manager to manage for every stage. So the project board is responsible also for determining whether to authorize any deviation or breaches, meaning if the project manager detects a potential breach of a stage tolerance, such as a time or a cost tolerance, they would have to escalate that or raise an exception to the project board, and the project board will need to respond, either asking the project manager to create a revised stage plan, known as an exception plan again, or provide other advice to the project manager. And below the project board, we have the project manager, which is the managing level. And the project manager is responsible for the day-to-day management of a project stage within the constraints established by the project board. What this means is the project manager cannot control the project. They can only control the stage, but they can always check the progress of the project, even though the project board is more concerned with the overall project and also to some extent with the stages, but the project manager can, of course, check the progress of the project as well as the stages, while they will focus more on the stage monitoring and controlling. And project manager also manages the relationships within the project to ensure that the project produces the products or outputs according to the objectives and agreed requirements of quality and other targets of the project. Generally, the external relationships will be managed by the project board, or some complex and senior level relationships will be managed by the project board.